ओमज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मिलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Well, Dandavat pranams. Welcome to all of our beautiful devotional family gathering from around the world. I'm in London now. I was in Hungary last week, I think, and traveling to Portugal next week. And I'm going to be in Portugal for a few months just to focus on not traveling and restoring health and so on. So here we are for our Thursday meeting. Does anyone want to bring up a topic for our meeting today? And last week, I think we were remembering Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which was very wonderful.
I have one. It came up
Okay.
last night at Madhusudan Maharaj's class. And I'm sorry
Okay.
about the on and off video. I'm moving around, I'm driving, so.
Mm.
And I don't know much about that, we are in Ratha Yatra season, and there is this one Līlā where Lakshmi chastises. And we were brushing on it yesterday. Paramanda was saying something how the ladies always like that because Lakshmi says something, and I'm like, huh? I don't recall that. I don't know much about it. Do you know something about it?
The ladies always like that because what?
That's what Paramananda was saying, and I'm like, what is he talking about? Like, I'm sorry that I said that because that it's just an opinion thing. There is this Leela where Lakshmi is doing some
Mm.
chastising,
Mm.
and I'm not sure. It's got something to do with the whole Jagannath Leela.
Mm. Mm.
Do you know about it?
Yeah, yeah.
If
Well,
that's relevant and, if that's something you
yeah,
feel
no, of course
interested
it's
in.
relevant. It's discussed in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but it is something to we're cautious about. We don't want to uh speak too lightly of. So I can understand why you were a bit confused by um yeah, I mean it's one of the Lord's Leelas, so we know the and this is discussed in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that festival actually, maybe someone can say off the top of their head, it's just happened or it's about to
It's
happen.
Hera Panchami. Srila
Yes.
Gurudev discusses it in Lakshmi
Yeah,
Vijaya.
no, I know. I'm asking the date.
I think we are like day 3 or something, or just one day past. It's been going on like this whole
Okay.
week.
Okay, so it's already happened. Okay. Um, so yeah, so there's the main festival, right, of Rath Yatra, and that is when Krishna, this is Krishna in Dwarka, right? And he is ostensibly going out for a pleasure trip, but actually he is going to visit Vrindavan, right? And and so this is what the Rath Yatra represents, right? That Krishna is leaving Dwarka to go to Vrindavan. And so it's a very wonderful occasion for all Vrindavan bhaktas, right? But then there's a little sensitivity because Lakshmi Devi, she is the Lord's consort. And so she is not so pleased, right? She hears some rumors that her beloved husband has gone to visit some previous girlfriends. And so she's not so happy about that. And so we hear, and so then the return, so there's the festival Well, there's a whole series of festivals. As you said, it's like about a week long. There's the pre-festival, which is the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, preparing for the Lord's arrival. Gundicha, which represents Vrindavan, right? Then that's one day. Then the next 1 or 2 days is the celebrating Krishna actually coming to Gundicha, representing Vrindavan. Um, and that's the main festival, the famous Ratha Yatra, which is attended by millions. But then there's also then Jagannath, Krishna, stays out for a few days. And then there's the return car festival. And then at that time, this is when Lakshmi Devi decides to come out and give some chastisement, to her husband. And she comes out in all of her finery, jewels and gold and so on. And she also brings many maidservants with her. And yes, there is an element of humor involved because but again, we don't want to talk flippantly about these things. This is all part of the Lord's Līlā, right? We don't want to turn it into a soap opera, but there is an element of Līlā. Sorry, there is an element of humor, right? Because the maidservants of Lakshmi Devi, as I said, they come out and they're all supporting their mistress, Lakshmi Devi, and they actually arrest the servants of Jagannath. So the servants of Lakshmi, they arrest the servant and beat, and also mentioned in Charitamrita using bad language. And so this festival, it's known as Divishayadiri mentioned, Hera Panchami, also Lakshmi Vijay. Vijay means victory, right? So the victory of Lakshmi. And then they bring back Jagannath and his entourage back to the main temple. So that's the festival. And there's a very beautiful, charming and beautiful description of this in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And there's a very interesting conversation that takes place between Swarup Damodar and Srivas Thakur. So Mahaprabhu comes out with a few of his intimate associates to observe this. I had darshan of Jagannath one time, some years ago. I was not there for the Ratha Yatra, but I was there on the return part, and I think it must have been like a day after this Hera Panchami festival. And I remember Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, they were all dressed very opulently, and so I remember this festival because that's the only time of course, we Westerners, we cannot enter the temple. And so this period is the only time when we have that mercy, right, of being able to have darshan. And so I think it was just after this festival that I was able to have that darshan. So anyhow, Mahaprabhu and a few of his close associates, there's a description in Chaitanya Charitamrita, they come out to watch this. And, and it kind of mentions how Mahaprabhu and his companions, they're like chuckling with their, but trying to hide it with their hands covering their mouths. And then there's this interesting conversation that takes place between, as I mentioned, Swarup Damodar and Srivas Thakur. And I can't remember who starts. I think Mahaprabhu, it might be Mahaprabhu. Maybe someone here can say for sure. Maybe it was Mahaprabhu who starts kind of poking at this subject matter. Or maybe it was Srivas Thakur himself, but Mahaprabhu is enjoying hearing the conversation. So what happens is, because there's this kind of, so what is this festival? It's like there's kind of like this, in a sense, you could say competition, right? Or contrast or conflict between these two aspects of the Lord, right? There's like a showdown, in a sense, between the Aishwarya aspect. Aishwarya means the um, the majestic, opulent expression of the Lord, his majesty and greatness. There's like a contrast or conflict between that air of majesty, and then that simplicity and sweetness of Vrindavan, right? Because Vrindavan is pervaded by this aprakrita mood, right? Appearing ordinary. Actually, Vrindavan is the highest plane of existence, but it's appearing very ordinary and very simple. So it can be quite deceptive, right? But then the Aishwarya aspect is very impressive and very obviously divine, right? And so this is more apparent in Vaikuntha and Dwarka. And so there's this conversation where there's a kind of like a comparison that's being made, but also with this element of competition because Srivas Thakur, right? He's an associate of Mahaprabhu, but he's also said to be an avatar of Narada Muni, right? And Narada Muni, he has some association with Vaikuntha, and he has some attraction and involvement with this Aishwarya aspect, this mood of majesty and opulence of the Lord. And so Narada is like a part of that whole scene, you could say. Whereas who is Sarup Damodar? Right? Sarup Damodar is Lalita Saki. Oh, maybe I forgot to. Oh no, we are recording. Sorry, I'm so spaced out today. um, so Sarup Damodar, who is Sarup Damodar? Sarup Damodar is Lalita Saki. Who is Lalita Saki? She's the number one attendant to Srimati Radharani and also Krishna in Vrindavan. So, oh, Mahaprabhu says he can't hear me. Can anyone else not hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry, Mahaprabhu, maybe something to do with your device. But it is being recorded, so any issue, you can come back to it. So here you have like what do you call this? Like a face off between, number one Vrindavan Bhakta and a principal Vaikuntha Bhakta. Who's going to be the winner, right? And so Srivas Thakur is kind of like starts, as I recall, like by poking Sri Damodar, saying, what's so special? What's so special about Vrindavan? Because Jagannath is just being brought back from Vrindavan, right? And like what's up with him? How could he leave the opulence of Dwaraka? Like what's up with this? Like so he's like, so what's in Vrindavan? A few twigs and leaves and flowers and dirt. Like, what is this? Like, but look at the opulence of my Lakshmi Devi. She's covered in jewels. She has infinite opulence and wealth at her disposal. Like what was Jagannath thinking? What's so special about this Vrindavan? And so naturally, Sri Damodar gets his back up. He's like, well, what do you know? Like, do you know what Vrindavan is? Every particle of soil in Vrindavan can give Vaikuntha in full, right? This is, I believe, Srila Sridhar Maharaj's paraphrasing of their discussion, and then Sri Damodar is quoting all these beautiful verses, saying, all the trees, they look like ordinary trees, but they're actually capable of granting all wealth, right? And Chintamani, there's a beautiful verse describing the ankle bells that the gopis wear, that they're all made of Chintamani, right? They look ordinary. They look like some simple ornament, but they're actually all made of this divine, wish-fulfilling, conscious touchstone, right? And they're living. The opulence of Vrindavan is hidden. It's like a kind of condensed wealth, condensed opulence. They're not putting it on display. They're not interested in it, actually. They're beyond it, right? But it's actually infinitely more opulent than Vaikuntha or Dwarka. But it's there in this hidden way. It's posing in this simple air, right? Srila Sridhar Maharaj gives a very nice explanation of this in one place, saying that, when one already has riches and wealth, then they begin to yearn for the simple things, right? Poor persons, they hanker for wealth and riches. But when somebody already has wealth and riches, then they realize, oh, this isn't so interesting, actually. Then they yearn for the more simple things in life, just like we'll see, very wealthy people may spend thousands of dollars to go have a simple countryside experience, right? I've seen that for myself, and back to nature, all these things, once you've already had a taste of the high life, so to speak, then you actually, you become more attracted to flowers, trees, and so on, right? That you realize that's actually something more beautiful, more profound, right? And so the opulence of Vrindavan is something like that. They actually have all wealth at their disposal, but they're more attracted to the simple things in life. And that air of simplicity is also more of a suitable background for the exchange of love, because opulence and majesty, it can become a great distraction, right? Then it becomes about that, this very impressive, awe-inspiring atmosphere. But the simplicity, of a forest background, it's much more suitable for love, right? Loving exchange. And so Sri Damodar and Srivas Thakur, they have this discussion, and Sri Damodar is like defending the position of Vrindavan. And then in the end, Srivas Thakur, he kind of like let slip that, he had deliberately stirred up Sri Damodar because he wanted to hear, you know, we see he wanted to hear Sri Damodar's glorification of Vrindavan and his explanation about the glory of Vrindavan. There's actually, maybe we can actually read that in that. There's one very beautiful verse our Gurudev liked very much. Chintamani's Charana Bhushanan Angana. Chintamani, I'm going to try and find it now. Here it is. This is chapter 14 of the Madhya Līlā. Yeah, and this is a beautiful verse here that our Gurudev used to recite. Chintamani's Charana Bhushanam Angananam Shingada Pushpa Tadavas Tadavasaranam Vrindavaneva Jadanam Nanu Kamadenu Vrindani Cheti Sukasindar Aho Vibhuti. The anklets on the damsels of Brajabhumi are made of Chintamani stone. The trees are wish-fulfilling trees, and they produce flowers with which the gopis decorate them. So these trees of Vrindavan, they can give anything, right? They could give all gold, silver, jewels, all the wealth of this world. But the gopis, they're just taking some flowers from there. And they produce flowers with which the gopis decorate themselves. There are also wish-fulfilling cows, kamadhenus, which deliver unlimited quantities of milk. These cows constitute the wealth of Vrindavan. Thus, Vrindavan's opulence is blissfully exhibited. So this is one of the verses. It's by Bilvamangal Thakur originally. And Sri Damodar, this is one of the verses that he quotes to demonstrate what is the wealth of Vrindavan. Somebody's waving there, but I can't see. Oh, is that Shama Gopal Prabhu? I can't. Okay, wow. Wow, he's also there early. Nice to see there's an early group coming to help in SoCal. That's wonderful. So yeah, very, very wonderful discussion in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And as I said, right, Mahaprabhu's, I'm giving a very concise summary. As I recall, it actually goes into some elaborate detail of Krishna's relationships with the gopis and so on. But this is the gist of it. And Mahaprabhu, meanwhile, is listening and in so much ecstasy to this discussion. Chaitanya Charitamrita, highly recommended. Such a wonderful, wonderful scripture tags, life manual. It's everything, actually. It's actually so practical in so many ways as well. There's so much humor in there, so much theology, philosophy, poetry. I mean, it's so complete and everything. And we always remember how Saraswati Thakur expressed, right, that it is the greatest theological literature to ever see the light of day. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're so fortunate to be able to have had some contact with such a great, what can we say, revelation in written form. Come within the realm of our comprehension by their mercy. Well, does that answer your question, Gangalila?
Yes and no. I'm sorry, I'm still driving. My head is still spinning a little bit. So thank you very much. Of course, there was a lot was answered. And then I'm like, how can I know that with when Krishna is a baby and Mother Yashoda chastises, and that has a lot of potency in it, in that kind of love. Is it like that? Is it coming from that love to chastise? Maybe I just don't understand chastise. Maybe I'm thinking it is something like mean or belittling.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that actually, because I was thinking about this just today, how it can be difficult to understand. Because yes, chastisement. Marie says he loves to be chastised. I don't understand it, but he does. Well, you see, it everything depends on the consciousness behind, right? And on one level, I was thinking about it just this morning, this point. So it's interesting that you mention it now, that in one relationship, aggression or chastisement or whatever it may be will be something inimical, right? It will be something unfriendly, right? That's in one context, at one level of relationship. If you say something, and I think I was thinking particularly in regards to insults, right? In one type of relationship, if you insult someone, that's something very rude and very unfriendly, right? But in another type of relationship, it may actually be an expression of extreme intimacy, right? And then in that relationship, it becomes relishable. You know, if you have a best friend or close family member who insults you, that becomes something very pleasing, right? They'll tease you about the things that and someone who's not your friends, they could say the same thing and it's an insult. But then someone who's close to you, maybe you had a bad haircut, let's say, just as a very simple example, and someone on the street could insult you for that, or someone who doesn't like you, say an unfriendly coworker, they could insult you for that. But then you may go home and have a sibling or best friend, who will just tease you and you'll have a lot of fun over it. So it's actually an expression of great intimacy, right? It's, when there's less intimacy, then you have to observe more formality, right? Then you have to observe conventions of respect and etiquette and all these things, right? but that's, you have to be polite, right? That's generally how we are engaging with persons that we know, right? But when you have a deeper level of intimacy with someone, then you have more freedom. Why? Because there's absolute trust between you. And in the background, on the foundation of your whole relationship is built on this absolute trust that I'm for you and you are for me. I love you absolutely, and I know you love me absolutely. And I know you would do anything for me, and I would do anything for you. So when there's that foundation of trust between persons, then anything is allowed. There's complete freedom. And this is how we can understand these kinds of relationships that Krishna has with some of his close companions, right? This morning in our Charitamrita class, we were also discussing these different levels of relationships, right? And so, on the, it's mentioned there are 5 principal relationships with the Lord, on the Dasya platform, the mood of servitorship, then there's a lot of respect and reverence towards the Lord. But then in Sakya Rasa, relationship of friendship, that's something more intimate, then those in that relationship, they may tease Krishna, they may jump on his shoulders, and all kinds of things will go on, right? Krishna will even massage the feet of his older brother, right? So how is that possible? How can they treat Krishna in this type of a reverent way? Because they actually have a deeper level of surrender. They're ready to die 1,000,000 times for his sake, right? And so because there's that foundation of deep love, surrender, and trust and faith, then they have full freedom to express their love in any way, right? And it is all ultimately very pleasing to him, right? As Marie mentioned. And then there's also the level where they may please Krishna more by not following his instruction, right? Where he'll say no. We can also understand that in some way in experience of this world, right? A mother may actually relish the naughtiness of her child, right? There's some relish and joy that comes from that, right? That her child is giving her trouble, right? Some mothers will enjoy complaining about their naughty children, right? They get some pleasure out of that, right? Or and I mean, I've had so many experiences like observing couples sometimes like squabbling and having like genuine concern. Oh no, their marriage is going to break up, and then later on I realized, oh no, this is actually just, their expression of love, right? They're okay, right? They're okay. This is just how they roll, and they actually get some joy out of that, right? So it may not be something everyone can understand, but it does exist. These things go on, and this is also a part of the science of relationships, right? And so this is also expressed in its divine manifestation in Krishna's relationships with his close associates. Does that make sense, Gangalila? And we have some comments in our chat here. Yeah, Divyashari has a good point here about not imitating and appreciating the different stages of development and relationship to the Lord. And welcome, we had a few more join us.
I just want to, can I jump in and say something?
Yes, please.
Srila Gurudev said that Srila Guru Maharaj's speciality is systematic development. Systematic. That was his speciality, like a distinguishing feature. Because the Sahajas hate that. They just want to jump right in and dress up as gopis. And I had the fortune or misfortune of speaking with one, I could say leader in that group, and they say, well, the ultimate goal is to be a resident in Vrindavan and be in the Līlā of Krishna. So why not do that now as a practice? So they dress up and they act and they behave in certain ways, but they haven't developed a foundation. It's like that famous quote of that one Babaji, maybe you want to tell that story, where he built a hut next to, I'm misfortunate to forget who it was. It might have been Babaji Maharaj, Vrindavan Das Babaji Maharaj.
No, Gaur Kishore. That was Gaur Kishore.
Yeah, and started making the sounds of a woman giving birth. Or so. Maybe you can tell this story, but this is a very key point, that we have to go through these painfully slow stages. There's stages that we have to go through step by step by step. You can't just make the sounds of a woman giving birth, to give that example, without telling the story. Sorry. But Sahajas hate that. They hate any kind of ontological, factual, realistic representation and practice. So that's also, to your point, how we always have to be very careful about discussing infinite topics in a finite way. Like Lakshmi Devi kicked the cart of Lord Jagannath. That's not really a respectful way to say it. Like the way you said it was very respectful. Making scriptural references, understanding things through the lens of scripture, quoting our gurus. But the imitations don't like that. They make these very close comparisons, because the infinite does appear as the finite, as Srila Sridhar Maharaj says. The infinite will look finite, and that's dangerous for us. We have to stick to our position, stay in our lane, and understand where we are. We're conditioned souls. We're doing the systematic method. So just appreciating also, to go back to the other point of how you reference scripture, you reference Chaitanya Charitamrita, you speak with Gurudev. This is the proper way to do it. In our spiritual life is a razor's edge. So it's a very dangerous position actually to be practicing. So we always have to keep ourselves behind scripture, behind our gurus, followers, clinging in the correct way, respectfully, as Guru Maharaj says. So maybe you want to comment, pick up something and elevate it.
Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Hare
It's an
Krishna.
important point to bring in. We can't really emphasize it enough, the importance of approaching these topics with great caution. So thank you very much for elaborating on that, Shari Didi. And Ganga Leela, yeah, we did lose you for a minute.
Can I just add one last comment, and then
Yes,
I'll
of
be
course.
quiet here. Thank you for allowing me. It reminded me how I heard Srila Guru Maharaj say that someone came in, it might have been one of us Westerners, and he said he wanted to enter the conversation, but like a chat. He didn't use the word chat, but like we want to discuss things as if we're part of the conversation. And then Guru Maharaj says Gurudev, I think, said something like, you're not qualified to be in the conversational mode. Like some things are part of our course of study, but not that we chat about it casually as a chit chat. I think it's a very, very a big caution. It's a very, we don't sit on the couch while we're, watching the news and chit chat about these things. It's a procedure and a process and a respectful approach. It's, as much as it's enjoyable, we cannot deny that it is pleasurable, our spiritual practices. But I don't know. I like the angel's fear to tread mode.
Yeah.
I'd rather feel myself in great fear and very cautious and very hesitantly, not hesitant, but, respectfully and slowly be more concerned with the slowness than the quickness. Okay, that's it. I'm finished now. Thank you. Dandavats.
Yeah, actually, we were just discussing this on Sunday. I joined the program at Green Street with Devashish Prabhu and others in East London, and we were discussing this point actually. And there's a chapter actually that was published in one of these recent books that has come out, Madhusudhan Maharaj published. And there's one of the chapters there, it's coming from articles of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Fools Rush In Where Angels Fear to Tread, right? And it's a wonderful article. Actually, I actually published it some years ago. I'll share the link. I published on the Jayashri website, and I'm going to share the link. It's a really, really nice article, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj is discussing this point at some length. And you know, and this whole point is so fools rush in where angels retread. Here it is. And this whole point, it's also summarized in or expressed, here it is. I've shared the link in the chat here. Srila Saraswati Thakur, this was actually almost like a slogan of Saraswati Thakur, represented as Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bange. And some of you will be familiar with that expression. And our Gurudev had that inscribed at the front entrance of our temple. Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bange, Matala Harijana Kirtana Range, Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bange. That, you know, in the posture of reverence, you know, we are doing puja to that high plane of spontaneous, free devotion and love for the Lord, you know. So, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj described it as something that defines the whole tenor of Saraswati Thakur's preaching, you know, that is high, high above, you know, we do not imitate, we worship that, we cherish that ideal, but we are, you know, we are not there, we don't imitate that. So it's very, and it's something I feel that is also, you know, as persons who aspire to be members of the serving group of Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Dakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, this mission of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, this mood is something that should characterize the spirit of practice of anyone, you know, who wants to serve this group, right? And the ideals of this mission. It's very, very central. And you know, my father, Danjakranipru, he joined ISKCON in the early years, and he told me that actually this wasn't a point that was made clear, right? And I was surprised when he told me that. Then I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, actually, Srila Prabhupada, he didn't have time. Maybe we were talking about this very recently, or maybe it was in a class. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. I get very mixed up with all the different classes. But you think about it, Srila Prabhupada, he only had like 10 years of preaching in the world, right? And he established ISKCON in this short time, huge worldwide mission. He didn't have time to get to some of the finer points, right? And for that reason, he directed his disciples to go to Srila Sridhar Maharaj for, you know, further elucidation on these teachings. So it's actually so crucial, you know, to have this type of clear understanding in order to, you know, go further on this path. So anyhow, we can't emphasize enough the importance of this point. And Gangalila, looking at your comment, it sounds like you were able to get some resolution on that question. So I'm glad for that. Anything else you want to mention, Gangalila? Or maybe we lost her again.
I'm in
Okay.
acupuncture right now, but thank you
Okay,
very
okay,
much.
okay.
That was really no, that part. I'm very happy that I asked again, and that shifted me in my heart. I got some understanding,
Hmm,
you
hmm,
know.
hmm.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, going back to what Gangalila brought up, we could say, there's chastisement as an expression of, hierarchical superiority, right? There's chastisement as an expression of ego. There may be chastisement just as, dry punishment. But there's also chastisement that's an expression of intimacy and affection, right? So when we see this type of thing in the Lord's relationships with his devotees, we can understand it in that way. In fact, now I'm remembering there's one conversation that takes place between Mahaprabhu, Sanatan Goswami, and Jagadananda Pandit, right? Where Sanatan Goswami he um he this is a whole other pastime that takes place, but he at a certain point, and some of you are familiar with this, of course, he feels very unfit, and he's in Jagannath Puri with the Lord and his associates, and because of this infection, he had quite a bad skin infection, and he was feeling he was contaminating everyone, so he was going to leave Jagannath Puri, and he discussed it with Jagadananda Pandit, who's an intimate associate of the Lord. And Jagadananda says, yes, Vrindavan is your place. That's a good idea. And then Sanatan tells Mahaprabhu, I'm going to return to Vrindavan. And Jagadananda, he also thought it's a good idea. And then Mahaprabhu becomes very angry, who is this Jaga? Who is this boy? Who does he? And he chastises Jagadananda harshly. Who does he think he is? And but then Sanatana Goswami, the way he responds, he says, "Oh my, oh sorry." And then Mahaprabhu also glorifies Sanatan, saying, "You're so pure, you can purify the three worlds. Where's the question of you contaminating? You are a senior. I am happy to take your guidance. Who is this Jaga to think that he can, advise you? You are so senior." And then Sanatan responds by saying, oh, my Lord, you're giving me the bitterness of respect, and you're giving the sweetness of chastisement to Jagadananda. So amongst the Lord's closer devotees, it's actually seen as as a mark of, great honor, that you're considered worthy of being chastised, that the Lord feels close enough to you, to feel that he can chastise you. We also experience that type of atmosphere around Srila Govinda Maharaj, actually. It was always felt to be a privilege if Gurudev would chastise you. It was like, oh wow, like you're really like part of the family now, like, so it was something considered enviable, right? Anyhow, so yes, when it comes to the Lord and the great devotees, all of these things in a in a context of ego, then it is something unfriendly. But within the family of the Lord, it is something very wonderful, actually. Okay, nice comment from Marie. Right. They're worthy, right? They're worth their time. You're considered worth the Lord's time and attention that he will bother to correct you. All right. Well, and we had a few others join. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, all the way from Ukraine. Kirtida is also with us, and Sara Siramani joined. Somya Sham and Vijay. Audarya Leela joined us. Wonderful. So happy to have you all with us today. We still have a few more minutes. Does anyone want to bring up any other points or comments or questions? And what else do we have on our calendar? Today is the disappearance day. I'm looking at our Vaishnava calendar. Disappearance day, Vajita Krishna, Brahmachari. Yes, I remember hearing Gurudev talk. So today's the anniversary of his departure from this world. And it's been a while since I listened to this, but maybe someone here can remember better. Maybe Devi Sharjit, I know she listens daily to all these recordings. But what I recall about him was Gurudev, he he was a disciple of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and he had he had like a high ranking career, um but he had an elderly mother who he was caring for, and he wanted to join the temple full time, but he was caring for his mother, and so he continued with his profession, and he was a very exemplary Vaishnava in his workplace also, and he inspired some of his co-workers to visit the temple, and then later when his mother passed away, he came and joined, um, and and he was a very devout servitor in the mat. What I remember especially Gurudev saying about him was that he was completely free of envy, right? And that was his like outstanding quality, completely free of envy. That's like the hallmark of the true devotee, to be free from envy, and then also as the other expression of that, to be full of appreciation for others, right? Appreciative of the qualities of others. And I don't know if I can remember what else Gurudev said about him.
I think, just to jump in here, I think I remember hearing Srila Gurudev say that envy is just a childish emotion. Like, don't pay it any mind. That it will, as you develop and gain magnanimity, it will just dissipate. Just keep going, you know. Like, don't worry about it. I think it was the way he said it was just so loving, and
Hmm.
you know, it will go. It's just immaturity. Like, it will, because we get into magnanimity. He said, don't worry about it. It doesn't have really roots for
Hmm.
us, for our sides.
Hmm.
So,
Right.
jai. Vishakadasi ki jai. All the devotees ki jai.
Okay. Well, we close there for today. Krishna Chaitanya, you're in Ukraine now, is that right? Maybe he's not able to speak right now. Okay.
Dhanyavad.
Dandavat.
Dhanyavad, dear Vishakadiji. Dhanyavad, dear devotees. No, we are in Croatia as refugees.
Okay, okay, okay. Oh, that's good to hear. Okay, with your family.
Yeah, with Annapurna.
Okay, okay, good, good. Happy to hear that. And Darya Leela's in Ireland, also as a refugee.
Krishna Dandavat.
Dandavata, Darya
So
Leela.
happy to join this meeting finally. Hare Krishna.
Oh, happy to have you with us. I just was in Ireland recently and was very happy to have the Darya Leela's
Jai Gurudev
to
Ki
come
Jai, Gurudev.
here. Well, good to know you're safe and well, Krishna Chaitanya. You're always thinking about our Ukrainian devotees and wishing for their safety and well-being. I met Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu in Kharkiv, one of the major cities. We we have a beautiful community there. Okay, well, maybe we'll stop there for today, unless anyone has any last words to share.
Where's
Suvas?
Kharkiv?
Sorry, what did
Where's
you
Kharkiv?
say?
Where's Kharkiv?
It's a city in Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we had a very active preaching center there. And as far as I know, it's still continuing. I think I heard some news recently from there. Some hours, I think it was like a 6 hour, 7 hour train ride from Kiev, something like that. Suvasini Didi, do you want to add any words before we close for today?
No, Didi, everything was so beautiful, beautifully expressed, very nice. And thanks to Divishari Didi too for her comments. It's very, very nice. Yeah, thank you so much. My
Okay.
dandavats.
Dhanyavad. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, all the assembled
Jai.
devotees, sincere seekers ki Jai, Shri Harinam
Jai.
Sankirtan ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Prem.
Jai.
Haribol.
Haribo.
See you all next time. Thank you, Ananta
Thank you,
Krishna, for
Shaka.
helping with the hosting. Very helpful.
Thank you.
Yes.
These are our lifelines, these Zooms.
Right.
Really, truly
For me too.
heartfelt lifelines. And today I didn't know it was Thursday, and then you sent your link, and I think, oh, it's Thursday. I got so excited and like a child on Christmas. I was really happy.
I'm so grateful to all of you for keeping me in this engagement and remembrance. I'm truly,
It's like
truly.
you can feel in your heart. You begin to find the distinction between your heart and your head. That you can feel your heart. Oh, this is my heart is threaded here. Your head even may be somewhere else, but your heart will be threaded. It's an interesting sensation. That's my experience.
Mm.
Uh,
Well, my
I
Dandava
feel very
that.
fortunate. Ananda is so wonderful. I told him he should write a book on courtesy. He's really the master of that. They say in the war treaties that I'm so well versed in that courtesy is the most you can hope for in this world. And I thought you've really mastered that. And sometimes listening to you, I'm brought to tears. I'm melted. And I usually have such a strong armor. Even my professors have commented, you're so well protected. We can't get through to you. You say things that no student says, like don't send me feedback. And respectfully, you have to follow the protocol, but they say things like, but he's able to be courteous, and it touches me. So just one sentence, and I start crying. Usually I'm just like full of armor. You should consider it. People in the world, they're losing that quality more and more in social media. How to just be courteous, be so dog fight. Social media's turned us all into barking animals.
Yeah, courtesy
We
is now
are.
like old fashioned, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. It's like a dog fight. We're on either side of the fence, just growling and salivating at each other. It is. It's considered just social skill. If you're not a barking animal looking to just bite the throat of another, you're somehow a hillbilly. Only the hillbillies don't know how to go for the vein and draw blood. It really is. It's for children, like young children, because before they're corrupted, before the corruption sets in. Write a book, How to Be Nice, just a simple book with how to say good morning, how to say good evening. Good morning. It's very simple, but solutionary. He said, you should see his posts, Vishaka. They're very good morning. Oh, I have good association. And that makes me cry. I'm like, oh.
David Asiki.
Hey.
Write a book, and with Vishaka's permission, you write a book for little children. Good morning. Thank you.
Okay.
Vishaka's laughing.
Landava
You have to give him permission. Jai, doesn't know how to pronounce.
Haribo.
Have a wonderful. Till we meet again next week. There is mercy.
Jai, 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 Jai. Haribo.
Jai, 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 Hari Bol,
See you
Hari Bol.
next